Profiles in Cinemania, the Rotoscope. This is the Ardèche department in the south of La France. The river Ardèche winds its way through a series of limestone cliffs, where the river has slowly and steadily reformed the landscape into a system of gorges. The natural makeup of the cliffs lends itself to the formation of long, deep caves. A very, very long time ago, prehistoric people also found this river, and they found these cliffs, and they discovered the caves. We know this because of what they did in there. The Chauvet-Pont-Stark cave was discovered right here, and it contains some of the most detailed and gigantic prehistoric art in the world. Radiocarbon dating of bones and organic residues shows that people were here some 36,000 years ago, when the pyramids were scattered pebbles, before the dreams of mighty Rome and Babylon, before Achilles and Odysseus, tens of thousands of years before people had writing at all. Humans stood here and contemplated the world they saw around them. They were trying to solve a problem that has plagued artists since time immemorial, literally immemorial in this case, namely how to capture not only the shape and form of the natural world, but movement too. The cave people here were among the first humans to leave Africa, and they had seen a lot on their journeys. They wanted to create images of the animals that made up their world in a way that represented their habits and abilities. The thunder of hooves across the plain, the crouch and leap of a lioness upon her prey, the locking and shaking of horns as aurochs and woolly rhinoceros jostled for dominance. The early artists were aware that by carefully observing animals they could capture moments of motion, and by drawing the same image repeatedly with small variations, they could suggest movement. Sometimes that movement is superimposed in the form of extra shapes added to a figure, extra limbs in different poses to demonstrate motion. There are bison with 8 legs, hooves whirling as they charge across the limestone walls. These cave folk knew that they were capturing something out there and trapping it in here. Particularly dangerous animals, predators, are shown with wounds, arrow and spear marks, which may indicate that the artist wanted to make sure they were in a weakened state, just in case the image summoned up the real thing. There are lines of dots made with fingertips in clay, perhaps representing a protective barrier. And this is interesting. You won't see any people. There are suggestions here and there, but no complete human images. It makes a kind of sense. If you suppose that the image is capturing something of the life, what would it mean if you took something from your friends and relatives and captured it here forever, locked in rock? Sometime around 25,000 years ago, a child came here. We can see the footprints near a little hearth. Then there was a rockfall, and no one came here after that child, until the cave was rediscovered in 1994. At the same time as the cave was discovered, Disney was creating their latest animated movie, Pocahontas. They wanted to capture a certain look, a certain fluidity of motion in the work. Pocahontas would be the last of the full-length Disney movies to make use of a technique which was in danger of being made obsolete by the march of technology and the new era of CGI, namely, the rotoscope. Those Disney artists were solving a problem that had plagued artists since time immemorial, namely how to capture not only the shape and form of the natural world, but movement too. The way that people move is complex and difficult to capture, especially when you have to capture it again and again, 25 times a second on celluloid. How to precisely measure and reproduce human movement in animation? Well, as any artist can tell you, the answer is always to cheat. The rotoscoping process is a deceptively simple idea, one which had been used for nearly a century in mainstream animated cinema, and it goes like this. You find an actor who looks and moves the way you want, you dress them up like your character, and you film them doing all the things you want to capture. Then you project that film, frame by frame, onto the back of a transparent easel. The artist lays their paper over the easel and literally traces out the performance. The idea was first proposed by Max Fleischer, a Polish-American animator who used the technique to great effect in making animated shorts, most famously of a series of Superman adventures. The animated figures produced by this technique have a weirdly fluid and undoubtedly human feeling to them. Disney took to the technique with gusto, using it to create their greatest early successes like Snow White and Pinocchio, and where Disney went, others soon followed. Ralph Bakshi loved the technique and used it to interesting effect in his adaptation of Lord of the Rings. Perhaps this is the one big flaw in the technique, because you're working from a real performance by a real actor, which means that if they're hamming it up and dramatically overdoing it, well, that's going to carry over into the final product. Anyone who's seen the animated Lord of the Rings will remember with chagrin the very noticeable milk the cow acting from the hobbits. This is the idea that in order to demonstrate great and dramatical emotion, one must make grasping motions as if clasping helplessly for better direction. Once you've seen a despairing hobbit reach up to heaven for the invisible teats of a spectral cow, you can't unsee it. Still, when it worked better than any technique available at the time. However, times have a habit, as the saying goes, of changing. Doing everything by hand is all well and good, but it takes a lot of time, effort, and most importantly, money. As the golden age of the Disney epics in the 80s and 90s drew to a close, so too did the techniques of those days come to be seen as fatally old-fashioned. There will always be throwbacks, however. In 2006, Richard Linklater was looking for a distinct visual style for his movie A Scanner Darkly, and turned back to the idea of rotoscoping. Now, of course, computers were heavily involved, making the process both easier and weirder. Computer-assisted lines seem to warp and flow in unnatural ways around the characters, taking away some of the naturalistic effect, but in a way that works in a movie based on altered states of perception. And that uncanny realness does still peek through. You can look at the faces of the characters and see the actor peering through clearly, not darkly, as emotions play across animated faces in a way that is uncanny and familiar at once. On a surface level, the movie is an animated cartoon, but you can very clearly see the individual actors and pick out their performances. The era of computer-generated graphics changed everything, of course. One movie with a strange look about it can't suddenly unmake the avalanche. Motion capture replaced the rotoscope, doing essentially the same thing in a new way. Actors perform the scene and every detail of their movement is recorded automatically and recreated within the computer. Just like Max Fleischer sending Superman hurtling into the air, a computer-generated character can perfectly mimic the behavior of a person in order to record their performance. So that's it then. Problem solved. It may have taken us 36,000 years, but at long last we can capture the real movement of people and creatures and present it artistically for our delight and edification. The task that began when a prehistoric hunter watched lions stalk a woolly rhinoceros is now completed. The techniques may have advanced, but some things don't change. You still have to put dots on everything in order to make the magic work. Maybe we know a lot more than those cave dwellers of an unnamed and forgotten proto-civilization, but maybe they knew a few things that we've forgotten. Remember the cave, remember what they put in there and what they did not. They would never try to capture people, that was forbidden, or wrong, or perhaps dangerous. If you're taking something alive and fixing it in place forever, whether it's a great mammoth hunt across a limestone cave wall or the latest action hero leaping from an explosion in celluloid, it's important to be aware of what you're capturing. Maybe those cave painters had a purpose in not imprisoning anyone in their art. Of course, there's no need to be superstitious. If the rotoscope were actually capturing the living essence of people, then the movie industry would be filled with semi-human zombies, outwardly human yet weirdly hollow inside. These undead creatures who may walk among us but secretly be bereft of a living soul. And that would just be crazy talk. Crazy, I say! Profiles in Cinemania is a production of the Cinemania Society, available wherever you might find quality podcasts. This episode was written and performed by Andy Slack. Music by Carl Casey at Whitebat Audio. Incidental sound courtesy of Epidemic Sound.